Yeah.
Sorry, it's a little bit quicker.
That was sick. Didn't hurt at all. I'm on my way to Swindon to meet the man described as the toughest MP in Parliament. Will Stone is the newly elected Labour MP for Swindon North. He's a black belt in Jiu Jitsu with his own gym, and he's about to fight professional MMA fighter Matt Inman. He might have bitten off more than he can chew. Combat sports have grown explosively in the UK. In 2023, there were almost 1 million people doing some sort of fighting. The link between politics and combat sports is well documented, but it's usually more Donald Trump sitting ringside at the UFC, rather than a Ken-themed rash guard in Wiltshire. Is there a politician you'd like to put in a leg lock? Any members of the opposition?
I think Lee Anderson's probably the worst, right?
Do you think he'd take you on?
Yeah, I think he thinks he could. I reckon he would try that. Because I think he's got that ego, right? He's probably like, yeah, I could take him. He's probably boxed a little bit.
Brexit hard man.
Steve Bacon.
He seems like the kind of guy to get into jiu-jitsu. He's got that vibe about him, I would say. Well, you've been described as the toughest MP in Parliament. How do you feel about that description?
I think it's a bit of a weird thing to say, but yeah, it's not the worst thing I've been called, so I take it. My dad tried getting me into loads of different hobbies as a kid to keep me away from the streets, I guess, and to being a ruffian. And yeah, it's something I stuck with. I really enjoyed it. I like the physical element in it. As you get older, your friend circle drops off, people live lives, whereas if you've got kind of a fixed space like the gym here, you'll come in and you'll make friends, and it's people which are like-minded. So I've traveled the world. Like in 2011, I did 3 months in California. I went out training jiu-jitsu, and I just went to a gym. Didn't know anybody, just dropped in a gym, made friends. Some of them let me sleep on their couch for 2 months because you have that kind of in common. So I think it's great for your mental health, it's great for meeting people, and it's great for physical, obviously, as well, because you're grappling with other people.
I think a lot of people would think of combat sports as being a hyper-masculine, tough environment, probably for super macho guys who love guns and women, or something like that. I think, but we're in your gym, you've got a Game of Thrones themed pennant behind you. Quite a niche one as well, I think it's a Bolton.
I'm glad you picked that up.
It's not an obvious one.
No.
That's an interesting tension between like the perception of fight sports and the people who do them and your experience of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially for jiu-jitsu, like MMA is slightly different, but jiu-jitsu is full of nerds. Like take Tom, who's sat over there, you'll probably speak to him in a bit, but we play Dungeons and Dragons. We do Warhammer. Like a lot of jiu-jitsu, I view it as live action problem solving, so it attracts people that are interested in that. So we get a lot of like data analysts, we get scientists. Obviously we get builders, we get bus drivers, but it's not as hyper-masculine as I would say. Not saying that it's bad to be a masculine person. And I think we kind of really need to rebrand that, because I think being masculine isn't, I like guns. Honestly, I was in the army, I don't want to see a gun again. I don't want to clean them. It's really a lot of hassle. People think shooting guns is cool, cleaning the carbon afterwards is not. But I think we need to kind of rebrand masculinity, because like you can be a masculine guy, you can be a nice guy, you can be a caring guy, and you can still be masculine. It's not about acting like an asshole. And I think that's where it's really bad when we've got people like Andrew Tate acting in a certain way, and we've got young boys looking at him and trying to imitate him. And the reason Andrew Tate is tough is because he spent hours in the gym doing kickboxing. It's not because he's disrespecting women. These are separate things, but he's trying to brand it to get money. And I think we need to bring it into a situation where you can be a tough guy, you can be a Francis Ngannou, you can do all these things, but still be respectful, still be cool. And let's make masculinity a positive thing as opposed to acting like a dick.
Do you have a sense of why men and young men are attracted to influencers like Andrew Tate? Why is it that there is this vacuum that allows them to be attracted to this incredibly toxic hyper-masculinity?
Because he's selling a false story. It's like the influencer equivalent of populism, in my opinion. He's saying it's not your fault that things are bad. Because not making it too political, because I didn't really want to do this today, not I wanted to be here doing the interview, but I didn't want to make it too political. Society's not where it needs to be. That's because of political choices. Life is tough, and Andrew Tate is offering a fantasy that it's not your fault, it's the world against you, and if you buy my Hustlers University, I shouldn't advertise that, but if you buy that and you pay the subscription and listen to what I say, you can be where I am. You know, and then if you've got someone like me saying, well, actually, that's really stupid, I think hard work is a great thing, and I believe in it, but it's not the answer to everything. Luck is huge. So, like, I think it's a fantasy which makes people not feel bad about themselves and makes them feel they can get to a certain place. And that's quite attractive, you know, because, like, if you can't get the girl you want and you can't get the car you want, but Andrew Tate's telling you, well, if you sign up and you work hard and you hustle, you'll have that, it's easier than looking at the rest of society why things are bad.
You'll have met a lot of different men in your time teaching here in just all walks of life. Have you noticed a trend towards hypermasculinity amongst like young men in particular that you've met? Yeah,
definitely. And like, there's, like I say, in the gym, I don't tend to talk politics too much because that's not what I'm here for. I'm not to sell the Labour Party. I do try and get my students to deliver leaflets for me, but yeah, there is, and like I've got. I don't see it as much firsthand. We do get certain people that have certain viewpoints, and I kind of stamp them out and give them the reality. And a lot of times, when you explain to people the actual rationale and why something is wrong, they get it. But I've got some people that train here that are teachers, and they share the stories of how it is bad. You know, like I've got one of my students, Harry. He teaches in I can't remember what school it is, but he was teaching in the school, and the default response is you don't have a big eye. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm a brown belt in Jiu Jitsu. He's a tough dude. He's 100 kg, strong, tough. But like, that's a really weird thing. And he does say that it is evolving. And I don't think, this is why this interview is really important. It's something I want to flag up and do more of in politics. We can't shy away from it and just try and block Andrew Tate and block Jordan Peterson, because that makes it secretive. That makes people want it more. That makes it a conspiracy. We have to put forward positive role models and say, well, no, this is what you should be aiming for. This is what you should be doing. Like, he is wrong. His views are wrong. He might be trying to rechange his image now, but he said some shady stuff and he's done some shady stuff. So we need to fight that with positivity and positive male role models as opposed to that.
Would you describe yourself as a typically masculine man?
Not really. So, for example, I'm married to a guy. You know, I'm bisexual. So that probably discounts me almost immediately from being typically masculine. I guess, what is typical masculinity, right? You know, I do a lot of sort of nerdy things. I play a lot of video games. You know, I'm quite a geek in a lot of ways. So I'd say probably not typically masculine.
At those other gyms or other masculine environments, have you felt your bisexuality has been an issue in any of those places?
It's really, I think I've been lucky in a lot of ways. It's really interesting. So the first place I trained at, I remember, because I was so young then, that was when I was just coming to terms with it myself. And I was quite nervous about coming out there, in that I thought that there would be some sort of issues or some sort of weirdness, but there actually really wasn't. I was quite lucky in that way. Although the funny thing is, when I did come out, someone thought I was joking, and I had to do it another 2 or 3 times before they were like, oh no, wait, you're not joking, which was quite funny. Then I trained at a gym down in Brighton that was super inclusive. I would say one of the things is I maybe have to do a little bit more research than maybe some people. So, for example, when I trained down in Brighton, I initially didn't go there because I wasn't sure what the vibe would be. And then a friend of mine told me it was very safe, very inclusive, and everything was fine. And then equally here, I've had, you know, nothing but good experiences.
As someone who likes fighting and jiu-jitsu, I think a lot of the content you see around it is this hyper-masculine Andrew Tate stuff. Is that something you relate to? Is that something you see, you identify about the sport that you like?
It's not something that I like. It's definitely something that's there. And I think it's interesting because when you say, is it something you like, I think that a lot of these creators, they put in things that are good to sort of lull you in, and then they get you with the more sort of extreme views, right? So I remember seeing a thing a while ago that, you know, something I really believe in is when you get up in the morning, make your bed, because I think it sets your mind off on a really good mental state. And they sort of use these sort of building blocks to get you into the more alt-right pipelines and things like that. So it's not something that I identify with or particularly like. It's something that you do see more and more of nowadays. But I'm hoping there's more and more of a fight against it as well.
I suppose it is a slippery slope between make your bed and then getting fake vaccine in Russia.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how they get you. Is I think that they get you with this slow drip of you start with, you know, some less extreme stuff, you know, some just, you know, fitness advice, and then it slowly lulls you into this, you know, almost think it's normal in this pipeline of views.
There's also been a lot of reporting done about how the far right try and exploit combat sports as a recruitment tool. They've been setting up sports groups essentially to try and recruit people into the far right politics, and then you have people like Joe Rogan interviewing a fighter you like. You listen to one episode, and then you're listening to, I don't know, a race scientist speaking for 2 hours.
That's something that when we look at, if we're talking about regulation, the government could do. So it is the rabbit holes per se that they take you down. Like that is a problem because YouTube and Facebook exist to keep you on there, right? So you could be completely innocently, like you say, watching Joe Rogan and it's a John Jones interview because you love John Jones and you think he's the greatest fighter of all time. And then it drags you onto a far right thing. That's something that could be looked at and that's something that could be addressed because you are right. Like it starts with one thing and it snowballs and then you're believing all the conspiracy theories and the one the government's keeping you down. So I think, yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a fear.
Do you feel any pressure as a new Labour MP in this government with an insurgent, radical right, far right in this country? We have 5 Reform MPs. Tommy Robinson's organising rallies quarterly. At this point, we had the riots in this summer. Do you feel some pressure of, we need to get this right, we need to fix this? Because otherwise it's going to just add fuel to the fire.
It absolutely terrifies me. It truly does because so my partner, she's from Finland, and you've seen that they've got a right-wing government now. Things aren't going great. You know, they were one of the progressive countries that we could look at and say they're doing well, in my opinion. You know, they've got a lot of positives. If we don't get this right, we could lose. And I don't think it's the next election. I think it's further down the line, but the disaster of reform becoming the government, I cannot even think. Like, they are not competent individuals. They do not care. And I think this is something which you can commend Nigel Farage on. He has managed to make the public believe he is a person who has their back, and he doesn't. He does not. He doesn't care. He doesn't show up half the time. I don't think he goes to Clacton. Like he is not a caring individual. He does not have Britain at his heart. If they were to get in power, it would be a disaster. Like we've seen what happened when UKIP and that got councillors. It doesn't work. Populism is not the answer. And I think, like, I'm not just saying this to stick on the party lines, but part of the thing which I really believe in Keir is, like, he is a serious individual, and we will take tough decisions because we have to fix the country, you know. And, like, it's not the easy answer. Politics is not easy. You can't take the easy answer. Populism isn't going to work. So, yeah, I'm terrified. If we don't manage to fix the country and we don't manage to stay in power, and the Conservatives keep doing crazy things, keeping themselves away from power, and Reform manage to get in, say it might be 20 years' time, it's terrible.
It was nearly time to go, but before we left, I wanted to see how good Will really was. Oh, he is pretty good.